Hello, today I'll be talking about how God responds back from my memory. I don't have a piece of paper in front of me or a Word document, but from my experience, from years of researching about how God responds back, um, I will try to explain with facts how He exists and how He responds back and who He is. Is He real? But yeah, from my experience, I can prove I've been doing this, that God is responding back. So, yeah. So, starting from the top, since I guess it was several years ago, I was an agnostic atheist. I was an atheist and then I became agnostic due to certain probabilities occurring in my life, which probably at that time wouldn't really confirm that I should be agnostic, but I was agnostic atheist during that time. And again, I was trying to figure out how God responds back. And, I just started out with, okay, what is the bare minimum? How can I start out with a clean slate? Nothing that will give me a bias in believing that a God exists. No wishful thinking, no psychological biases. And so I started with a clean slate. So I just started with, is there a way that there's a response in the external environment that shouldn't be happening? So I started with, asking God to respond back in certain ways that is like very, very low probability of occurring. And, I kept on asking and nothing was happening for a month. And, I just kept on asking, God, will you please respond back in a way that's obvious, that it's not a psychological bias, it's not my own wishful thinking. And, I was continually trying to prove that, God could not respond back. So that was my mindset as I was asking Him to respond back. And, so He, or a certain, I would say a certain event happened that was, very, very low probability of occurring. Even after a month of asking, for God to respond back if He exists. And it was like this huge, and again, it wasn't something I made up in my mind. And I tried to recreate it after that event happened, and I couldn't. As of right now, I can't recreate that event. And it wasn't like wishful thinking. But it was like this huge pulsating energy externally outside of my body that was hitting my skin. And it was getting more, it was stronger. It was like this 2-story tall pulsating energy that was coming towards me. And, I was like, oh, okay, this is something that I'm not making up in my mind, because I can feel it on my skin, like throughout the external part of my skin. This pulsating energy, it was hitting my skin over and over again. And it was getting stronger as it was coming towards me. So I was like, okay, based upon what I was asking for over a month, and this external stimuli that I've never felt before in my life, this huge pulsating energy was hitting my skin. I made the conclusion that this is not normal. This is, this thing was coming towards me, and it was getting stronger. and it was huge. It was this huge energy fire thing, and it was pulsating. It was hitting my skin, and I had no control over it. It wasn't a psychological bias. So it's only when I told God to, stop, to go away, because I thought I was going to die, that it went completely away. That pulsating energy, that huge 2-story tall energy thing, or energy pulsating, it went completely away. So I concluded that, this is very low probability of occurring, and God was responding back. So that's, it's when I was agnostic atheist to agnostic. And yeah, so that was real. That's not something I could recreate. It wasn't like a psychological condition where it came back again. So it wasn't a psychological bias. It wasn't wishful thinking. I've never experienced that ever again. It's only happened once, and that was when I asked God to respond back. And that's when I became agnostic. So, and after that event, I asked God to respond back in other ways, and God has. I've been asking Him to respond back more often, even as agnostic, and God has responded back through a person. I made sure that it wasn't made up by that person. It wasn't a psychological bias. I asked God to respond back, and He did through a prophet, as they would say, through a prophet. And he talked about his/her sins over and over again. And I talked about my questions that I asked on my own previously. So he just answered those questions back to back, which is statistically impossible. Even with one question answered that I asked before through that person, through the prophet. And even that's low probability of occurring, but back to back, like 4 questions in a row that I asked previously, and God is answering those questions, that confirms that that person that's yielding to that spirit is actually God. Especially when God is speaking through the prophet to talk about his/her sins. So that's just, very low probability of occurring. And that's real. So from my experience, I know that God can speak through a prophet to talk about his/her sins and these disasters, and in that, answering specific questions back to back. From my experience, that's real. So, and God will do that again, hopefully. And so yeah, that's just from my experience, and that's real as well. And I think that's mainly, the other ways that God responds back. I really want to prove, gift of healing and gift of miracles, if that works. I know that God is also responding back through the rain. I have it on my channel. I think it was 2 times, 2 videos, where God was stopping the rain, starting the rain, stopping the rain, starting the rain. one video where he stopped the rain. And that's, very low probability of occurring. I explained in that video, I explained in the what's it called, the footnotes of the video, that, that's very low probability of occurring, that God is responding back within like 8 minutes of me asking God to stop the rain. And I'll continue to ask God to at least stop the rain and start the rain on camera. And those video recordings was way before, AI generation was improving, and I'm afraid that it'll continue to improve to where it's going to be much harder to prove that God is responding back through starting and stopping the rain. But as of right now, I think I can still do that and show that that's real and not AI generated. But especially those videos before, they're real. God is responding back, starting and stopping the rain. So, and I'll ask God to, through other weather events, and God can respond back. He's not the God of Jesus, because you can make fun of all the other gods, the God of Jesus, while not continuing in sin. And nothing bad happens in your life if you make fun of other gods while not continuing in sin. Nothing bad happens in your life. So, yeah, so that's also true. And yeah, I'll continue to do this. I'll continue to prove that God can respond back. And I'll hopefully, try to reach more people with these facts. So. And what else? I guess that's it. I'll continue to prove this, and I'll come out with more videos. And thank you.